Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Cloud Show, recorded live at the ESPC conference in Stockholm. It is an amazing, huge conference with so many good speakers and so many good friends of mine that I'm so happy that I get to talk to here at ESPC. I am going to have the next conversation on the Cloud Show about Azure governance. How do you do that? What do you set up to govern your cloud estate? Because there is a lot of business value and a lot of cost and a lot of time involved, and you need to do things in a really good way. The star of this episode today is a really good friend of mine, a superstar in Azure. It's Tiago Costa. Hello, Tiago. What's up?
Hi, Magnus. All good? I'm enjoying here the ESPC conference.
Oh my God,
I just
yes.
did my session.
Oh, yeah?
And it was amazing, huge audience, lots and lots of questions.
Oh, great.
So, yeah, great.
I would
great
say
to be
that
here.
the tech level at this conference, not only the speakers and the content, but the attendees have a very high level of tech.
No, correct. Yeah. By the questions that I got, super experienced people.
Nice.
They know what they're coming from.
Nice.
They are here to get more knowledge, to solve, small issues that they might have in their work. Great
They're here
audience.
to learn
I'm loving.
and there's a lot of knowledge flowing back and forth. That's wonderful. That's exactly what a conference should be like. I love it. All right, so tell the audience, who are you, Tiago? Where are you from, and what do you do?
My name is Tiago. I'm based in Lisbon, Portugal. I work in Azure. Okay, surprise. And, I've been working in Azure since it was called Red Dog. I'm sure you know the name,
Yes.
which is for our audience, our younger audience. It's the code name of,
Of the
when
cloud,
this was in preview
Yeah.
of the cloud services from Microsoft.
And then it came out as Windows Azure.
Windows Azure,
Yeah.
yeah. And then they
right.
rename it to Microsoft Azure, which it's what we still have today. Let's see that no one from marketing from Microsoft is watching. Don't rebrand. No, please, it's a great name. And so basically I'm based in Lisbon, and I work as I do consulting, I do training, content creation, and I speak in conferences like this one here today.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and we're very happy to have you at the conference. So let's talk about governance. So governance means that a company is making a bet on using the cloud, and they are buying cloud somehow. There are various ways to do so, but they're investing money into actually using the cloud platform. Plus, they are investing time and effort, and it can be mission, business critical stuff that is running there. If the service that runs there goes down, the company might lose everything, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you need to be on top of your game here. And this is spelled governance. Right?
Yeah.
So how do we do that?
So first of all, I can tell you the way that this should be done.
All right.
And then I can tell you the way that actually it is done in the wild. Okay.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. So
All right.
the way that this should be done is governance and a strategy on how to move to the cloud should be something that you should do before you create your first resource.
Okay.
And you're laughing because that's never going to happen.
You should have a proper plan. That's what it's saying.
Exactly. You should plan.
Okay.
It's like when you go on holidays. You just don't say, "Hey, I'm going on holidays," and then you step in the car, and then where are we going?
Let's get into the car.
No, you plan, right? You find a place, you decide where to go.
Correct.
And all that.
Book a hotel room. Maybe some activities that you're gonna do. Yeah.
Exactly.
I get it. That's a good analogy.
The thing is, I'm sure people are so excited in using Azure.
Oh yeah.
That they just go create resources, But that's not the proper way. The proper way is first, we need to set what we call a governance plan, which answers questions like, why are we using the cloud? Okay, we do questions like, why we chose Azure, not other platforms, why we're going to choose, for example, let's just say storage accounts. And how are we going to use those? And those are like, it's some people think this is a little bit boring, because we're doing like a lot of meetings with security teams, with legal teams within the company. But we actually need to set the stage on how to use each individual service. And look, it goes let's just talk about storage accounts as an example.
It's a good example.
It's like,
it's a very,
can you have
it's a very straightforward and simple resource
service,
because
yeah.
you store your files in the storage
Exactly.
account. Simple,
like-
simple as that.
Are you going to allow to have blob containers that are publicly accessible for read? Or as a whole, you say, no, I will never use this for that part. That's a decision that you need to do.
Yep.
Or within certain scopes, like, I have some subscriptions that are for public,
Use,
websites,
yeah,
and I have other subscriptions for private stuff.
For like business services that are internal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the private ones, you say, no, there's no public containers. So that's something that, we
Check
go
on that.
and we take note of that. And then later, we can enforce those using Azure policies, for
Okay.
example.
So you put a policy in place to guard the behavior that you're seeking.
Yeah, usually we even say that. It's like putting guardrails, into the usage of Azure.
Right.
And of course, look, we can go deeper into storage accounts and say every option that you have in storage accounts, are you going to define this? And it goes even beyond that. It goes to like naming conventions.
Yeah, naming conventions.
Look, you're not
is-
going to call a storage account
Interesting.
like, hey, what's the name of this storage account now? And I'll just call it
John.
Magnus.
I'll call it John.
Or
Magnus. You'll call
Magnus
it
or potatoes.
but-
No, you need to make sure that it makes sense to everyone involved on those projects.
Yeah.
So that's why we create naming conventions. This is
Naming
why we have
conventions are
naming
good.
conventions for years, right?
Yeah.
So we also need to look for and say, okay, storage accounts, this is the naming convention for storage accounts, period, done.
Yeah, yeah.
And
yeah.
we're good.
That makes sense because down the line, downstreams, you will, if you're big and successful, you'll be having hundreds of storage accounts.
Thousands.
Maybe, who knows, right? It
Yeah,
could be
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of them. And then you want to know which is what, which is for what.
Exactly.
Right?
Very easily, you just by the name, you pick that up, boom, I identify this is the storage account of something.
So and so.
yeah, exactly.
And even, for example, if there is, let's say that there is a problem downstream, that there is a security breach or some issue that you have to go and investigate, you want to very, very quickly be able to know exactly where is this problem happening so that you can find the source of the problem immediately and not just guess around, oh, there's a storage account named Magnus or potatoes.
And what it
we
is.
we have no what do we store in the storage account of potatoes? We have no idea.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Right?
Look,
Yeah.
I had a customer, was not this year, was last year already, that we had, was virtual machines. And we had thousands of virtual machines. And
Yeah.
some of them were idled. And we were like, it's like 100-ish
Yeah.
that were idle. I
That's
don't
a lot
know
of
what
money.
this is. And that, like, we had virtual machines.
Yeah.
At least from those 100-ish, probably like 4 or 5, that the name was VM1.
Ah, okay.
VM1. And
Okay.
I'm like, okay, great. I still had one machine that was called VM2.
Oh.
So I assume because
Good.
it was in the same resource group as another VM1 that maybe they have
they're
something to do
one
with
and
each
two.
other.
Okay, yeah.
But literally there was nothing more.
Okay.
And they were idle, so we had to use a process that's called the Scream test.
Okay.
Which
The
basically
screen test, yes.
Yeah. It's actually the technical name of that. And so we started to turn off those machines and stop the machines, like just for actually we're removing connectivity,
Yeah.
not turning them off, but removing connectivity for the machines for a few minutes a day until we put it more time until we actually shut them down. And we're waiting for someone to
Come and scream.
come and scream. Exactly.
Why is my machine turned off?
Exactly. And guess what?
Did
We-
someone come?
Yeah, we had one.
Oh yeah.
One person, one machine, after it was turned off for a week. And I think was kind of a development environment, for something, etc. That the guy said, hey, sorry, but I actually need that, but I actually don't use it that much. I was like, okay, but you can start and stop machines.
That's right.
And
So now
yeah.
we're talking about cost optimization, right?
Yeah, which that's why I wanted to go there. Because governance is not just
Security and
security, is not just naming conventions. It's also, there's a part on cost optimization.
yes.
Okay, like one of the tricks that I do, and this is like valuable information to everyone, okay?
Listen up.
If you do reserved instances
Yes.
for virtual machines.
Yes. Oh, so reserved
So
instances quickly. Reserved
you-
instances are what?
So reserved instances, you're just going to do a commitment with Microsoft saying in that region,
Yeah.
I'm going to use, let's just say, 10 VMs,
10 VMs
of that family, that size.
Yeah. So you say that up front. I'm going to use these.
Yeah, and Microsoft
For how long?
for a year or 3 years.
Okay,
That's
so
for
that's
VMs.
a commit.
That's a commitment.
Pay in advance.
You can actually pay every month.
Okay, but you still
do a
make
commitment.
a proper commit. I'm going to use this. And what happens when I commit to that?
So, a huge discount.
I get
like
cost.
80%, 70%. It depends on the region.
So if I know, if I have a plan, that tells me I will be using these VMs for a long time.
Yeah.
Because they are part of something important that we use them for. I will use them for a long time. Then that commit is very valuable to me.
Exactly.
Okay.
But now what happens if you never did any governance in any kind?
Yeah.
And you have lots of workloads using completely different sizes of virtual machines. It's really hard for you to actually do a good commitment in terms of reserved instances.
Right.
This is where governance steps in, Azure policies, they step in, and we can just choose, a subset of sizes to
there
be the
are many
authorized
VM sizes.
Oh
like,
yeah, there's more than 1,000.
We can't count them all, right? It's not possible. So
I never did that, to be honest.
And these are different hardware specs. You can start. You can have a really small virtual machine. You can have a very, very large one.
Really large.
And they can be extremely expensive and less expensive. So what you're suggesting is to take a set of machines that
serve your purpose,
serve the purpose of the business well, and figure out like, okay, we're making a decision. These kinds of VMs.
Exactly.
Okay.
And because you choose just those,
yep.
The opportunities for you to do reserved instances is way more.
It's better, yeah.
Because it's not just for one workload.
Yeah.
You can now do reserved instances that can serve more than one workload. Got it?
That makes absolute sense. Yeah. So the key here is not to let everyone that uses Azure inside of your business just make all of their own random decisions, left, right, and center.
Definitely not. Yeah. Look, I can give you a great example on that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
One of my customers, they have Corp.
Yep.
Corp makes the decisions in terms of tech.
Okay.
In terms of, but then we have countries. We call them branches. Okay.
Okay.
Let's call it countries or branches, whatever.
Different branches. Yep.
That they have their own local IT teams.
I see.
Because in Sweden, for sure, there are regulations that are really, really local. That Corp will be very hard for Corp to understand.
So they have their own IT team with
and they support the local stuff. So we gave a subscription to every country so that they can use Azure, because we don't allow anyone to buy hardware.
I see.
For servers.
Yep.
And what we did was we just told them, look, there you go. You have this subscription. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And now take care of it.
Yep.
But there are all those rules in here.
I see.
Get it?
I see.
So
I
because
do.
we have different teams, different countries, with different perspectives, different experiences, but they are all under the same rules.
I see. Okay, brilliant. So this is a huge area. We can talk for a long time about this. But before we end, can we give a summary or like an intro to how do you get going in the right direction if you feel that you need to add more governance to your business, or make a plan before you use the cloud, ideally, but that never happens.
Yeah.
So what would be an approach? Well, how do you start in the right direction?
So you start by selecting what are the services that I'm using today.
Yes.
Then you create a second list. What are the services, the Azure services that I probably will use tomorrow?
Okay, got it.
You give priority to the first list, and you decide if to each service how I'm going to deal with this. Mm-hmm. Storage accounts again. Okay. Yeah. Hey, I'm using storage accounts this way for this scope. For the other scope, that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then with that information, you just go and you implement policies. Even if you're denying stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And stuff that you're denying. Okay. Today, look, you're denying the creation of a storage account in a certain region, but you say, oh, but I already have some that are already created. There's no affection on that. They are not going to be affected. But there is a dashboard, which is called a compliance dashboard, that will let you know, look, there is all those storage accounts that they are not under the policy. They're not fulfilling the policy.
So
then, of course,
could I
later
have
on,
a policy to enforce the
Newer ones.
for example, you cannot have a public endpoint on this storage account.
For example,
you can have a policy.
You can
for
have a
this.
policy for
Okay,
that. Yeah, yeah.
So if somebody tries to deploy a new storage account,
it will not.
it will be denied.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really handy because
But
then you
the
can enforce the rules.
Yeah, but the ones that you already created,
they
are still
They're
there,
fine.
they work, but they are not going to be compliant. So
Okay.
it's going to show in the dashboard
Mhm.
saying, hey, look, you have all this. This is not compliant.
So then you just you keep
Then
working the problem.
Then you keep working on that. Then, look, to be totally honest with you, that will take forever to do. There are storage accounts that it's going to be really, really hard
But
for
still,
you to move. But
you
it's
still
a
have to do
work
it.
that needs to
Yeah.
be done.
It
Yeah,
needs to be
exactly.
done. Yeah,
exactly.
for security, for compliancy, for cost optimization, and all the things.
And all that.
That's the work, right?
And there is always one thing,
Yeah.
which is as late you start, the worse it will be.
Of course, yes. You should ideally have the full plan 100% before you begin.
Sure,
but nobody does that. It
Yeah.
doesn't work like that because you also learn things along the way and realize things, right?
Exactly, because sometimes when you start with this, and let's be honest, not everyone has the proficiency
No.
On Azure.
You don't
that
know
someone,
enough. You know some, but you don't know enough.
Exactly.
You can't make a plan for things you don't know.
Exactly.
Planning is everything. Following a plan is useless.
Yeah. But then, you learn more and you're going to,
All right.
improving your
Okay.
environment until, one day you have the perfect environment, which is, let's be honest, a myth.
It's a
But
myth,
that's
but I like
that's
it.
the ultimate goal.
I think this is a
Yeah.
great note to end this session or this episode of the Cloud Show because that's where we want to go. We want to go to the mythical land where everything is perfect.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Tiago, for being on the Cloud Show. It was a pleasure to have
I
you.
know. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here. And now
And-
let's enjoy the conference
And-
again.
Oh yes, let's do. And audience, I will see you guys next time on the Cloud Show.